Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, smash the subscribe button, it will really help me out. Now, as I did say in the channel update, I'm going to make this Instagram worthy, so it's going to be a whole build of the cosmetic side. I also did mention that I was going to throw in a few things and tips as to why I pick certain things and to why I'm going to do them. One of the things about Instagram is it's all to do with looks. So, with this bike, it's all about making it look better and making it look like something in a sense that it's not. You've got to understand that dirt bikes, i.e. the YZ125s, Honda CRFs, all that kind of stuff, they are built to do 40-foot jumps. If you do a 40-foot jump on one of these, you will blow out your fork seals and you snap your rear linkage. It is just not an actual dirt bike. However, it's very similar looking, so we're going to go for that look for the Instagram sort of type. So when the Chinese actually design these kind of bikes, they're always slightly off. They just look weird in comparison. So when you look at a KTM or Kawasaki, Suzuki, RMs, all the actual proper dirt bikes, these just look a little bit off and odd. Now the actual reason for that is because basically everything here is raised and everything here is lowered. It'll be bloody expensive to start changing this and swapping this, and it'll be a massive headache because things and components are just not going to fit. So when you compare it to sort of like the dirt bikes, if you actually take a look at, say, Kawasaki or KTM, anything like that, if you actually take a look, we'll take a look into the picture here, you'll see that the forks seem really, really long. The handlebars are also really high, and the distance between the mudguard and the wheel, or so to speak, the forks, is just taller. So to replicate that, we're going to start off with the front mudguard. Now in true Blue Peter style, here's one I've ordered earlier. It is the front mudguard of a Honda CRF 250. Now I chose this one not because it's red, but just because it's got this rebate right here, meaning that when it actually gets put on, this bit is now raised. So by raising this part here, I'll end up needing to raise the front headlight. And by raising the front headlight, everything's going to be brought up because the front end of this bike is actually really low, as the petrol tank and the seat are actually quite high. So it's going to be a struggle to make this lower and change the seat, but it's going to be a lot easier to sort of add that height at the front. So you need to add the height at the front in order just to get that look. And also by doing that, you can do another part of it which is quite essential, because if you look at the headstock over here and then you look at the headstock over there, you can see that the petrol cap's actually a lot lower. So by the petrol cap being a lot lower and the bars being a lot higher, again it gives that illusion of height. So if I'm raising the mudguard, I'm raising the headlights, I'm going to have to raise the bars. It's not just the fact that the mudguard needs to be higher. There's actually certain lines on the bike that if you look and compare and contrast again, you'll see that from the tail end to the bottom part of the front fairing and then to the top part of the front fairing, there's a lot of lines that keep going through the bike. Now, me personally, the Sinnis blade front mudguard, I mean, thank you Lloyd for giving it to me. I have got something that I'm going to do with it, and won't let you down. Now, the main thing is about it is the fact that with the front mudguard, it's actually very long and it's pretty straight, which no longer kind of falls in with the rest of the lines of the bike. So that's why it just starts looking a bit mismatched, and I'm just not too keen on it. So with design elements of it, I mean, I'll put up a few pictures. I'm going to put up a KTM over here, and you will see what I mean by the lines. And I'll put a Honda CRF 250, I'll put it up here so you can see again. I've drawn the lines on those just so you can actually see where the fluid of the lines and where they all meet and why it's done like that. So without further ado, let's just start getting rid of this front mud guard, because we need to take it off and we also need to use it as a stencil. So as you can see, there's 4 bolts that just hold that whole thing together. If you look at the back of it here, you've got some vents, and up here, this is the main bit that we need. So here is basically the stencil of what you're actually going to need to fit the next mudguard. Now there are differences with it, and the way that I've managed to grab the stencil for it is basically with a bit of lined paper. Now the lined paper helps because you can line that up, but as you can see here, you can actually see where the bolts actually go into. So with that bit there, you need to sort of figure out where on the line that's going to fit in order to keep it straight. So in comparison, you can see that the Honda front mudguard is a lot taller. It's also a lot curvier. But this rebate here is the bit that I'm massively after. However, the original holes go all the way into here. Now at first I thought that might be a bit of an issue, but actually I'll be able to sit a headlight in there quite comfortably. However, I can knock it back to about here. So as you can see, I've used that bit of paper to do the stencil. I've managed to put it here, and basically all you want to do is roughly find where the centre of it is. So once you've done that, you can drill the holes right through it. So as you can see, they're slightly off matching, and you might even then, so I'm doing everything with the GoPro in one hand, and then with that you then want to find an even bigger drill bit, because you're going to want the room to move it around. So we're going to have to find a bigger drill. It looks like it might be this one or that one. It might be that one. Yeah, because you're going to want at least some playroom in order to actually move it around. Right, so power tools are a bit of a godsend. They make light work of a lot of things. You don't want to go too big with these holes, because you are literally only just trying to make it just that little bit wider, so that you can move it about when it's on the bike. Right, so double check on the other side of it as well. And like that, you've now got slightly bigger holes, which is brilliant. Right, at this point you can actually put your mudguard in to line it up. Now, one of the things you can already see, that light's in the way. So, put that just down there for the time being. For that, you just want to raise the rubbers and raise the headlight. Right, awesome. So now I should effectively have a bit of room to play. Now, when putting on the front mudguard, as I said with that rebate, going to sit here. As you can see, I've now got an increased distance between the wheel and the mudguard, making the illusion that the forks are actually a bit bigger. So what we're going to do is going to put in a couple of bolts and just see how it sits. Right, so as it is, you only want it finger tight, just for the moment anyway. Maybe even loosen it just a little touch. The reason being is you need to get up top and actually see that you're right bang in the middle. And as you can see, that is why it was important to make these holes just that little bit bigger. Right, so then what you want to do is you want to make sure that the middle tip is bang in line with your front wheel. That will let you know that if your tip is in the middle of your front tyre, that will let you know you're right bang in the middle. So once you're there, that's when you want to tighten it up. Because it's not the intended bike that it's to go on, it's off a Honda, you're going to see that here you might get a little bit of interference. But at the same time, as you can see up here, you're going to have a little bit of a gap. I mean, it's sitting on there pretty nicely, but I want to follow the line that is actually going down here. So if you actually take a look at the bike, it's got quite a clear line that it follows from the tail fin all the way down to the mudguard. Now, I want to follow that line, but at the same time, I'm trying to match from the front to the top. And for that, I want to match that line here. And I kind of want to get as close to as this reference point as I can with the mudguard. And as you can see, I'm not far off. And in order to match this one to this line up against the bike, it needs to go up. So that actually works quite well. I also need to make sure I've got enough clearance here. So this is actually going to be pretty cool. Now, one of the things that I did do beforehand was get a couple of extra bolts, slightly longer, and then I bought some washers to go with it as well. Now, the reason for the washers is I need it as a spacer, because I want to kick the front end of the mudguard up, so at the back I need to kick it down. That will give me the clearance issue problems out of the way, and also it will just give it that extra kick whilst being able to hold the mudguard really tight. And naturally, it's going to be a bit of a ball ache. It's just fiddly. It's not too bad, it's just fiddly. Now it's just important to note these are little M6 bolts. I only really needed another 12mm because that's all that I was going to go up by, but obviously the bolt is a little bit taller, but I just want to double check and basically do a dry test of it first before I then start cutting bolts down, because I don't really want it to be sticking out the top there. Now with the spacer I've chosen basically, I think it's 7 of these small 6mm washers and one larger one, because I want to grip the plastic, because that's the main bit that's holding it all together. So it's going to go with the big one at the bottom, then the others on the top, and then the top yoke will be at the top there. Probably find that you'll have to loosen these off just so you can fit it all in, because you just want to be able to get the play to kick that up. Right, so just like life, nothing ever goes according to plan. Right, so I want to add another 10mm, but don't really want to go too crazy, so I'm just going to add a slight little bit to what I want to cut off. Let's go mark there, and then cut away. Awesome. Now I just need to do it with the other bolt. Right, so basically I've decided I'm going to drop the kick down just that little touch to maybe about 8mm, because it's sitting a little bit too high and I'd have other interference problems with the wheel coming up and down. All these things are things that you end up finding out as you go along. Alright, so back to the drawing board. 1, 2, 3. Right, so with those in place, I now just need to tighten it all up. Right, so tighten up the front first, so that you can keep the front in line, and then you tighten up the back. Right, so now you can see that the line comes down here, and then that line matches the line there of the front mudguard. Now, one thing that isn't matching now is just down here. So as you can see, about here, it's going to need a trim. So even though I put it all on, as you can see, it's raised up over here. So you can see now that between my dashboard, that has been raised, and actually, amazingly, that fits in really, really well. So now, all needs to come off again, so I need to cut it. But before I do anything like that, I'm going to have to measure it. Now, the measurement is not going to be the same for yours. Obviously, I'm running a different wheel, and also I've got it on a box sitting up high. So what I've got to do is measure it, find out what it is, and then cut the mudguard. Now, over here is 645 over at this side, but I'm going to cut that one down. I'm probably going to say at around the 60 mark. So 60 centimeters from the height there is where I'm going to mark it. So now I've notched those, it basically means I've got to take the whole mudguard off again. Got to make sure you don't lose all the washers when you're doing it. It really probably would help if you didn't have a front wheel on at the same time. But so I've done my markings and I've got my handsaw. Now, I used to be a carpenter, so I've learnt to get a steady hand. However, this isn't going to be easy. I'm also going to go from that mark, I'm going to cut at a slight little angle, just because it will be a bit nicer. Nice. Don't worry if you go too far out with it, because ultimately that's just going to need to sand down now anyway. So that's actually not a bad cut, considering it's all at an angle and stuff. But yeah, look at that. Right, so just need to tidy it up a little bit, and then yeah, just goes back on. The mudguard's bolted right back on, so now it's looking pretty spot on. I'm actually really pleased with the way that it's turned out. It's really got a stance now that makes it look like a jumping dirt bike. It definitely does look the part. So I did buy a used front Honda CRF 250 front mudguard. The reason being is I need to paint it anyway. Honda CRF is not the same as Halfords Toolbox Red, so there is a slight difference in colour. Even then, I actually do want to paint the bike anyway, so it's going to need a lot of touch-ups here and there. However, with the fitment, I'm going to show you a couple of photos just so you can actually see. You can see here that I've actually managed to get it looking pretty good and to fit in with all the lines. Also, the front headlights I put over here is now magically fitting very, very well, to be quite honest. I still don't like the headlight though, so I will be looking online as to what I can go and get. But yeah, overall I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope it's given you a little bit of inspiration and a little bit of knowledge into the design and why these bikes look a little bit different and odd. I'm actually really pleased with how it turned out. At the same time, I'd like to say thank you to Durban Dungeon Garage for giving me a shout out. Thank you ever so much. He does some motorcycle tinkering stuff as well, so definitely have a look. The link's in the description below. And obviously Billy the Biker, he is doing a ground up restoration build of one of these, and I'm really looking forward to how that's going to go out. So at the same time, I'll leave a description there as well. Obviously next video isn't until Wednesday, but until then you're going to have to ride it out, and I hope you like something a little bit different. Cheers.